will hear us. I think the stream has officially started. Looking good. Loading up.
If you can't hear us, tell us.
Yes, let us know in the comments below, please. Or to the side. Anyways. Welcome.
Hello. So today, I don't know if any of y'all play Fortnite. We've just been kind of fascinated by it, and some of our projects have been Fortnite themed, like the Boogie Bomb from the Ray Gun project. We have an upcoming project going on with that. Like today, Bowling's working on making the chest from the Fortnite game, and I'm working on making Kevin, the purple cube. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but not this Kevin, who you may know. This Kevin. So, yeah, we're going to we've prototyped it. We've kind of figured out the circuit components that we need to make it happen, which surprisingly is very similar to the Boogie Bomb. So, the Boogie Bomb uses where is it? It's over here. Uses a microcontroller, which is this guy right here. And then it also uses a soundboard, which you can use to store audio and play it back with the Arduino. There's an amplifier to amplify the sound that's coming out of the soundboard, and then a speaker. And we also have a switch. We have a battery backpack, which basically allows us to plug in our battery, charge it, power our Arduino and our entire project. And then we also have these little programmable light emitting diodes, or LEDs. And these are cool because you can make them be whatever color you want, and you can program them to flash different ways. They're really neat. But all that's controlled with the brains of the operation, this Arduino trinket. So the only thing that's different about the Fortnite cube is, yeah, Arduino is a really fun word. Where did it come from? I feel like I should know. Maybe Google can answer that. It probably means something. But yeah, so Kevin is this mysterious cube, or his name isn't really Kevin, it's a cube from the Fortnite game, and he basically came out of a bolt of lightning from the rift. I'm trying to explain this and make it make sense to non-Fortnite players, but he's doing all kinds of mysterious things, and he's like sliding around in the game, and he has what they call runes on it, which look like hieroglyphics, and it's just like little symbols kind of all over the side of it. And Kevin lights up.
Let's be honest, he looks like a Kevin too.
He totally I mean, this looks like Kevin if I've ever seen Kevin. And so he lights up. He responds whenever you shoot him. Like, he doesn't like to be shot. And what he'll do is if you shoot him, he'll flash real bright and shoot a bolt of lightning at you. And right now, currently, he has this, it looks like magnetic flux lines kind of going around him, which basically puts you in a state of zero gravity when you're nearby. So it's kind of silly, but it's fun, and we were thinking that it would be fun to make a little project using the parts from the Boogie Bomb, but just adding one new component, and that's this accelerometer right there. And an accelerometer basically detects when there is a change in velocity. So it won't tell if you're just moving at constant motion, but if you go and then stop or change direction or speed up or slow down, it's going to pick that up. And so Kevin, how I was telling you, he doesn't like it whenever you hit him or you shoot him. We're going to build this accelerometer into the base of Kevin and all this other circuitry so that whenever you shoot him or flick him or move him or anything like that, he lights up and he plays a sound, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I prototyped the circuit, and now pretty much all there is to it is just to put it together. So
Do it.
yeah, just gonna jump right in. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them This is printed in glow-in-the-dark plastic because the first version of Kevin is actually right here. It's a purple cube. There's nothing to it, but he doesn't glow in the dark because the paint doesn't allow the UV rays to get in.
So Arduino is already trademarked in Italy, so I'll sell this. I don't know how to say that. Genuino. Strong friend.
That's really cool. Yeah, I would definitely say that's an accurate description because you can do a lot of really cool stuff with Arduino. And the thing behind this video is, like, I am not an expert. I started with one very simple project and then did something a little more complicated and a little more complicated. And then finally, like, you get all these different building blocks. You learn how to do all these different things with your Arduino. And then you can bring them all together to just do more impressive stuff over time. Not that Kevin's especially impressive, but it just kind of illustrates how start small and you can end up doing something bigger and better later. So yeah, thanks for that, Corey. I'm gonna just get to it. This was all modeled in Fusion 360, which it's a solid modeling software, and it's not my favorite, but it does the trick. So, and it's free, and if it's free, it's for me. And so I'm gluing our sound effect board down to this base that I 3D printed the other day, and I tried to design it so that everything would fit in there, but sometimes things don't go as planned. So for instance, I already had to modify this base and cut out part that I 3D printed because the battery that I'm using is bigger than the battery that I plan to use, but we figured out how to work around that. Claire is learning some basics of coding it until we need to get an Arduino or Raspberry Pi. That is awesome.
That's really cool.
Yes. So personally, I'm a huge fan of Arduino. They serve minorly, they do different things. Arduinos are really good for interfacing with hardware. So like we're gonna use it to talk to lights and receive a button press. Raspberry Pis can definitely do that, but they're not necessarily built for it from what I understand. And Arduino normally will just do a better job at that. Let's hope that this is not a bad idea what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to glue this board right here down to the sound effects board so that it doesn't move, but I also don't want to short it out, because if you give electricity a easier path to take, it's going to take it, and if it's not designed to go that way, then bad things can happen, like you fry your board and it'll never work again. Glad you're giving us ideas for all the cool things we can try when we get one. Yeah, man. And if you need any help with any of them, I'm not going to say that I'm going to be able to help, because like I said, I'm not the best at this, but I will definitely try.
Arduino comes with a lot of really cool, like, basic starter exercises too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, so the Arduino starter kit is actually how I got started. Bowling, you actually gave it to me as a Christmas present. I don't know if you remember that, but that just shows how nerdy I am. The things you get excited about. I remember it was definitely my most favorite Christmas present to date. No offense for other gifts you may have given me. Alright, let me know if you can't see any of this.
Something's burning?
I hope not.
No, it smells.
Oh, I accidentally burned the cord to the hot glue gun because I placed it on the soldering iron.
Safety first.
Bad idea, don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. Isn't that what they always say? I need to find a screwdriver.
There's one right, up through the
Oh,
yellow
yeah,
one.
right here. That's not the right size.
Get another one.
I don't know if I just turned it up or down. Okay, so now there's no real right answer to this, because when you're making stuff on your own like this from scratch, you kind of just got to figure it out. And like I have a plan, kind of. Like I know what all needs to be hooked up, but I don't exactly know in what order I should hook things up until I actually try it. And then the second one will go smoother. I've actually never built this. This is the first time I've made it, so let's hope that it goes well. I feel confident that we can figure it out. So now I'm gluing down the Arduino trinket. This is a 5-volt trinket. Most of them, or a lot of them, are 3-volt, but in order to drive our LEDs or our light emitting diodes, you need the 5-volt trinket. Let's see, I might as well go ahead and glue the battery down, I think. I'll just put a little bit of glue on him because batteries don't like heat and this hot glue gun is hot. So the battery that was supposed to go here should have been a little bit smaller, but it'll all be alright. And then the only thing that I didn't do is I didn't prototype where I want to put the where I want to wire in the switch. The cool thing about electrical switches is you can put them just about anywhere in the circuit. You just have to make sure that well, all they have to do is they have to interrupt the flow of current. So I don't know where I'm going to put mine yet, but it's going to fit right down in here like this, and it should press in unless I messed it up earlier when I was cutting out that piece for the battery, which it seems like I did, but it'll be alright. It'll still work.
Always positive.
Yeah, always positive until it doesn't work, and then try and still be positive. Okay, so that's in there like that. So now we've got the battery right here. We've got the switch. We got the trinket microcontroller. We've got the audio board, this guy right here. And then we've got the amplifier. And then I built a second level because there wasn't enough space. And I wanted the lights to kind of be in the middle of it all. How many? Oh my gosh. Corey, I don't want to talk about how many we've made.
It's a long story.
It's a long story. Actually, this one that Bowling is painting right now, we don't even feel good enough to send it out. The printer that we have is not the greatest, and so we got a new one coming that we'll be able to like actually put out some really good, make some really pretty Fortnite chests. So we got the models. This is a rough draft. This will just give us an idea of what the final product will look like. And then, so long story short is none.
Okay.
We should have those next week, though. You guys are like Santa's elves. Maybe we should rebrand our channel.
I like that.
So yeah, this little hat right here is going to sit on top. The wires are going to come through. And let's see, I'll get this little pointer. And they're going to come through this hole. They're going to hook up to this guy. They're going to hook up. I made a bus bar, which those are really important because you want you don't want to hook up too many wires to one of these ports, like on the Arduino down here. Like we're going to have a lot going to and from ground, and it'll get real crowded. So we made this like it's really messy looking, but it's a proto board, and then we soldered all of these connections in this line only together, so we can solder all along here, and anything that we solder along this line will be connected electrically, and so we call that a bus bar. And it's just like a little homemade one. It does the trick. It's fine. It's not perfect, but nothing that we do is perfect. So
Fake it till you make it.
it always gives us ideas for how we can make stuff better. Okay. Now I guess I need to hook up the backpack. this guy, I think I planned for him to go right here. That's going to make these wires really, really tight, which I guess is fine. So let's hook it up and see what it looks like. So I'm going to plug it in. Like that. That'll work. I can do that. I'll hook it up right there. I'll solder my connections there. I'm not going to plug the battery in just yet. You know what? I'm going to leave the battery out for now because I don't want to burn it when I'm going in there with the soldering iron. I know that it fits, and so we're just going to leave it out. So I'm going to glue the battery backpack down right there. Alright, so this guy goes right there. Okay. Now, I think we can go ahead and start hooking everything up. These wires to the speaker goes on the second level, so we'll leave the wires to the speaker off to the side. This wire is the bus wire, and that's what we use to charge our battery pack. So it's going to hook up to our backpack, and what I'm going to do is just, the end of the wire looks hideous, and so I'm going to cut it and start again. So we got that cut. And then this wire is so small, I don't even have wire strippers to strip the coating off, so I just have to use my fingernails. Andrew from the Ray Gun project had the right wire strippers though, so
they're out there somewhere.
They're out there. They exist. All right, now I'm just putting a little bit of solder on the wire. I'm also gonna don't mind my cord. I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the ground pin because I don't have any there. A little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put solder on all these pins. So we got solder on all the pins there. I'm going to pull this through and try to not burn myself.
Or me.
Or bowling. Even though burning me is, I would probably cry more about that. Okay, so we got soldered there. Now we can attach this wire to bat, right? I wrote something on the board. Okay. Trinket, bat on bus, soundboard bus to 5 volt. So this goes to 5 volt. I don't want to hook that up yet.
Why?
I don't want to hook that up because it's, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on here. Okay, you can. So I have to hook the bus wire up to 5 volts. Now, when I hook that up to there, I'm kind of blocking myself from hooking up to these two. And one thing you got to be careful about when you're soldering is you don't want to damage the components on the board. Now, this guy right here isn't going to be as sensitive because it's like capacitors, resistors. You got a little transistor down there, LED. It's harder to damage, but this one that has a microchip on it, a bunch of little transistors, it's more delicate and less resistant to heat. So you just want to be careful about where you solder things because yeah, you don't want to damage anything. So I'm going to start with my back connection on the battery pack, or the battery connection. So bat goes to, let's see, what does bat go to? I think bat, let me pull up my schematic real quick. Don't mind me.
Handy dandy map.
I think bat goes to the bus, but I want to be sure. When in doubt, check it out. So right now I'm just looking at the Ray Gun project's wiring diagram. So on Thingiverse, if you search Boogie Bomb, Boogie Bomb, 2 words, his is the first one that pops up. And if you go down to Thing Files, down at the bottom, he's got BB_wiring diagram. And he is hooking up, so he's interrupting the power that goes to the battery with the switch. So we're actually going to go from that, so this wire right here, to a pin on the switch, which we'll cut shorter because this thing's so long.
It's Andrew. Hi.
Hey, what's up, man? The corner of the chest.
See a little bit.
Show him.
I may have broken it already.
You haven't broken anything. Nothing was glued in place. It actually looks terrible. So.
Okay. Well.
But it looks good on camera. If you see it in person, it looks terrible. But good find on that.
And there's
Alright, so I'm cutting the pins on the switch shorter because it's going to interfere with the second deck on our second level where our LEDs and all that sit. So this guy right here, we cut it so that it doesn't interfere. And then we're going to wire from battery to, and I want to use bigger wire here. It's probably not necessary. It's probably not necessary, but better to be safe than sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that up to here. Cool, just like that. We got one wire going into there. This wire is going to route over to here. I'm going to go ahead and put some solder up on this guy right there. So boom, boom, just like that. Hey Andrew, I got a new soldering iron just like yours.
Yay. And a new, well, I guess you already know.
Oh yeah, and you already know about the Prusa.
Just like you.
I'm trying to be just like you, man. Okay, so this wire is going there, and then this wire is going to go to our bus bar. Yep. And then we also are going to put, so I got to figure out where I'm going to put that. This guy goes like that. And then our bus, this right here, is going to go somewhere where there is room. We'll just stick it in here somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and put some more solder on these pins because it's not looking too pretty right now. I think what happened was
When's the printer coming and invitation assistance years for
when
the printer comes in Tuesday, I think?
Yeah, it comes in Tuesday. How long did it take for you to make yours?
Like put it together, you mean?
Yeah, put it together. So I'm just gonna pull this solder off because I was not thinking whenever I wasn't thinking whenever I made it and I glued it down so it wouldn't move like it's moving right now. But I think the glue contaminated the solder, and long story short is it doesn't work very well. It doesn't seem like it adheres like it should, so we can just start from scratch, no big deal. Okay, now new solder on all these pins. Boom, 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 boom. bus is almost done. Then we can figure out where we want to put it. Okay, bus is done. All right, so I think the best spot for the bus, it's a little warm. Don't pick hot things up. So that's an interesting point, Corey. Yeah, working on stuff like real time. We've done it on Twitch, and it was surprising because there were a lot of people that are not, I mean, so a lot for us. Like, this is our first time streaming on YouTube. On Twitch we did it, and I haven't looked to see how many people have popped in. I don't think it's been very many. But whenever we did it on Twitch, there were quite a few people that popped in, but we were kind of showing how making stuff is, we were wanting to communicate that it's raw, and a lot of times it's not very straightforward. Like, you're not following instructions, you're just figuring it out, and it doesn't look like this pretty video that we put together. It really is a lot of like banging your head into the wall, and it's true of anybody when they make, like, the coming up with the rough draft is always the hardest. So like, I've prototyped this already, so I kind of know how it needs to hook up. I don't know exactly how it needs to hook up, so we met a little bit in the middle with this one that it's not completely raw, but yeah, if that makes any sense. I do like the idea though. Yeah, exactly. Took me a couple of days. Read the comments before doing the step. I had pulley get stuck on its shaft, and it turns out it was a big problem. Oh joy. Okay, so I think we're gonna just glue that right there and hope for the best. See how crowded it's getting? I don't know if you can really see.
We need a bigger Kevin.
We need a bigger Kevin. Whoa, light bulb. That's a good idea. Andrew, you want to help us make a like a 20-foot tall Kevin, like a scale model, full scale?
How big is Kevin in? Well, we don't really know.
Well, no, you could totally figure it out because the characters are about the size of normal humans, and it's probably like 3 or 4 times the size of the character, so 18. You could probably get away with a 16-foot Kevin. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start wiring this up. We also want a relatively big wire going to ground. And I want that because I don't want any issues with current being able to make it back to the battery. Basically, the smaller a wire, the less electrons can fit in it. So if you think about it like a hallway, you know, if you have a really small hallway and there's like a fire drill or something like that, and everybody tries to rush out, there's going to be a traffic jam. You don't want a traffic jam on your ground wire. You want the electricity to be able to flow back to the battery basically with no problems whatsoever. So in that same example, we want our ground wire to be big enough for all the electricity to fit through it as easily as possible.
Does sound like someone's going to need some money to invest in that.
Yeah, but what if we just made it out of wood and then tarps and then painted the tarps? Like, not tarps as in blue tarps, but like the clear painter's tarps. I feel like you could do it really affordably. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Actually, we already know I'm crazy. How would you make the sound? Just with an Arduino. And then you'd put a bigger speaker in there and obviously bigger lights. Yeah. Okay. So the bus. Battery bus. Trink bat to battery bus. 5 volts. Soundboard bus. 5 volts. Soundboard bus. 5 volts.
You said ROI, man. ROI. Return on investment.
What would Mr. Beast do? Yeah, I was thinking we could do it and put it out in front of like put it out in front of Williams-Brice for the upcoming Georgia game, for our local college football team. Put it out there for the upcoming big football game of the year. But I don't know. We'll see.
That's next weekend. So
yeah, so we had to be hustling. Okay, so we got one ground going there, one ground from this guy going there. Need a ground wire here. We're trying to keep our ground wires green so we know what they are. So I'm going to do this. Cut a new green ground wire. Sounds like a good way to get arrested. What if you bought the parking spots though? Or not like borrow them,
There's
but
probably like a building clause or something. Maybe if it's not taller than one of those fold-out tents.
yeah, maybe if it's only a 10-foot Kevin. Okay. So we got another ground wire. I just built this thing. I should like know how to build it in my sleep, but my brain doesn't work that way, so I'm just good at, I guess, figuring things out. I guess. That didn't work. That's okay. Ugh. I'm glad you're coming around, Andrew. You think that would get the attention of Epic? I guess if it got enough press, anything could get the attention of Epic. And then we want ground. So we got this ground going here, we got this ground going there, we got this ground. So we need another long, we got this wire right here. That's what that's for. Okay, so we got that one, this one, and then we got a big ground coming from the second level right here. We got another bus. This line right here is all ground. Let's get that. Okay. Of the main Fortnite producer.
Dang.
Wait, his wife. Oh, really?
What's his wife do? She a photographer or he didn't just do photographers, right? That's cool.
Corey dropping name. Okay. A Reddit post can get their attention, so I think a life-size Kevin in Central Park might do it. Alright, so Central Park. She's a wedding planner. Interesting.
Who do we know that lives in New York?
Anybody have any friends in New York so we can go plant the life-size Kevin in New York? Or do you just do it? I don't know. I don't know. Andrew, you know some names over at Epic. Talking about name dropping. so we got that. We also need power coming through here. So that, to me, that seems like
some sort of permission.
I feel like that definitely seems like a good way to get arrested.
But you can figure out the form.
Is there a, when you say good way to be arrested, I thought getting arrested was bad. Is there such thing as a good way to get arrested?
It would be worth it.
Yeah, I guess it potentially would be worth it. Don't get arrested, kids. Giant 18-foot cube in New York City.
A lot of people would probably think it's like an alien something spaceship.
How many people? There you go.
Marketing guy's a big guy.
I feel like marketing guy would eat something like that up. How many people do you think would recognize it? Like, do you think people would recognize it? Andrew or Corey? Alright, so we want power to go.
A glowing cube with hieroglyphics coming off of it, I think, would stress people out.
Yeah, I feel like people would probably think aliens were coming or something. Alright, we got that wire hooked up. And then we need our data wire. So, all the cool kids would. I'm telling you, man, I think we could do it really affordably.
This is our recruitment video, actually.
Yeah, we're actually trying to get people to tell us that this is a good idea before we go try it. But I totally think you could make it out, even like steel. I think you could do it for cheap in that painter's tarp. Actually, if I want to expose my
You already bought tarp?
I went and bought tarp, like the clear, thick plastic tarp, because I want to try and make one, and like not a big one, but you know, one like this big or so, and put it out in the sunlight to see what it looks like. So
Good thing our neighbors can't see our backyard.
yeah.
I think it's crazy.
Okay, so we got our power going to the top part. Now we need the data going to our lights. So I'm running a pretty small wire, pretty small silicone wire to that. It doesn't need much because it's not sending much current through the wire. Wires only need to be big if they're sending current. Voltage doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, so now we also need power. We need ground. Sorry, I'm all the way over here. We need power. We need ground. And then I'm actually only using the X out. So this thing has 3 axes of accelerometers. So you got X, Y, X, Y, and Z. So if you accelerate it in only the X direction, it's almost impossible to do. So like if you go like that, you perfectly, you won't see any value change in your Y-axis. Same thing with your Z. But the reality is, when you hit it, it's not going to just move in one direction. It's going to do some like complex movement, unless you're just like extremely lucky. So I'm only using one axis of the accelerometer for this one. You could use all of them, but for what I'm doing, it was overcomplicating it. Yeah, it's I wish I knew more about it, to be honest. But yeah, the way that I think about it is like if you think about it like in a human example where you're in a hallway and somebody pulls the fire alarm, the motivation to get out of that building, if there actually is a fire, is really high. So people are going to be pushing on each other and trying to move out of there as quickly as possible. That's kind of like voltage. Current would be how hard it is and how much those people are backing up and pressing on each other as they're trying to exit the building. That's the way that I kind of think about it, thinking about it in like a physical type phenomena. Ugh. Okay, so this is the wire that I'm going to use as my analog input for my accelerometer. So I'm going to wire this up to X out on my accelerometer. Like I said, we could use X, Y, probably not Z. Z wouldn't work very well. But they should be purple. You could have projectors aimed at each wall. You could totally do that. The projectors would be a really cool idea. I wonder if you could. Well, I guess the runes, do they move or do they stay static? Because if they stay static, what you could probably do is have the outside tarp is kind of like opaque, painted purple. The inside, you'd have another inside tarp where the runes or the like hieroglyphics are painted on it, and that one would kind of diffuse the. I'm guessing. I don't really know if this would work. This is just kind of what I was thinking you could do. So 2 tarps. This one has the runes painted on it. This one does not. It projects through this and kind of gives you like a shadow outline on the outside tarp. I don't know if it would work, but that was just kind of what I was thinking from like a simplicity. But the projectors would be super, super cool.
What if you called it art?
If you
and
call
got like
yeah.
a license from the park or whatever to put it in an art installment. It's Fortnite art.
Yeah, it is Fortnite art. I think it could be really cool. I think some people would think it was funny. I just really don't know how many people are aware of the purple cube. Corey, have you heard of it? Has anybody heard of it? Anybody? Somebody? Alright, ground wire, we're gonna make him big again. And I can always shorten these wires up. So I always like to cut them a little bit long and then shorten them up afterwards.
Had you ever heard of the purple cube from Fortnite? The Kevin
the Cube. He's like all over the news. Kevin's famous.
Not to be confused with Kevin the Minion. Where's that? Where'd the Minion go?
He's right here.
Oh.
I knocked him over. Kevin. Okay, so now got a wire going to ground. That's not going to work. One thing you got to be careful of with stranded wire is the strands can kind of like go out like, let's see if I can get my hands in there, go out like that. And if that happens, one of those wires could come in contact with another pin and cause it to short out. So just something you really want to be careful of when you're using stranded wires and hooking it all up. You're missing out, man. I to be honest, I don't play much either. I'm actually really, really bad at it. But I'm fascinated with the entire game and like the design of it and how they've created just so much interest around it. So more from like, I don't want to say an intellectual perspective, but
business,
I guess. Yeah, I just think it's really neat what they've done with Fortnite. Oh no, shorted those out. That's not good. But you can fix it. Okay. Let's try this again. I'm struggling right now. Soldering really isn't all that hard, but man, I don't know that I have the vision for it. And I used to play with Caleb. He's much better than I am. And I was holding him back.
Can you do like teams?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, now we need a power wire. Again, power wire doesn't need to be big because it's not sending a lot of current to the it's not sending much current to the accelerometer. It just basically needs. Yeah, you look like an old man when you try and read the
Because
comments.
he squints and he doesn't. Thank you. And he doesn't need glasses, which I do not understand.
Yeah, I've got like 2015 vision, but
it makes
I
no
think
sense. But he does this squint thing all the time. I'm glad he called you out.
Thanks, Corey. That's hilarious. My brother does the same thing,
And his son does the same thing too. His like 2-year-old will like walk around like this. I'm like, yep, he's a ball.
squints. Ah! I flung hot solder on my face.
That also burned his finger earlier. It's fine.
Like I said, do
you
as
should
I
be
say,
wearing
not as I do.
Safety glasses. That's the importance.
I have never flung hot solder on my face before, so
Doesn't mean it can't happen.
obviously it can happen. That really got my attention. Okay, so we've got our 3 wires going to our accelerometer. Let's see. These wires are going to feed down and through and attach to Kevin's bottom down here.
He's actually blind. Yeah.
Now he's out. Now I can't see. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. This goes right here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and glue this bust down. That maybe actually, do I want to glue it later? I think I want to glue it later because getting the soldering iron down in there is gonna be tough. I can solder it out here and then push it down in there. That's a much better idea. That's what we're gonna do. Sound like a plan? Okay, cool. Let's see. So bat. And then 5 volts goes to the trinket. So we can go ahead and hook that up because neither of these are going to move. So we'll solder that.
Are you gonna let people know how they can build their own Kevin too?
Yeah, we'll if for whatever reason anybody wants to make their own Kevin, I don't know why you necessarily would, other than it's just fun to make stuff. We'll put all the links to this stuff in the description if we decide to list this video. I don't know if we're gonna list it. We might just live stream.
How difficult on a scale of 1 to 10 would you call this project, like with wiring up and everything?
The hard part's the soldering, but honestly, like, I don't have the most stable hands.
No doctor.
Yeah, definitely don't have hands of a surgeon. But I don't know. I really don't think it's that bad. Everything's kind of tight, so one thing you could do to make it a lot easier is make it twice as big. If you made it twice as big, you would have twice as much room between all your components to wire this stuff up. You could also make it probably twice as small, but then things are going to be on top of each other, and this felt like a really good size. So to answer your question, I'd call it a 2 on the scale of difficulty.
So a good project for maybe Corey and fam to try out. I don't know if they got a
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. I mean, making it wouldn't be very bad. It's just like wiring all this stuff up.
I guess it is with smaller kids, you know. With them.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like, you know, I started with this Kevin. It literally is just a glow in the dark block, 3D printed, and then I was like, you know what? What if I cut the bottom off of it? So I tried to cut the bottom off of it, and then I was gonna put just a white LED, this guy right here, inside of it with a little battery and then a switch and a resistor, because you don't want to and they don't get the Fortnite reference. Yeah. But I'm sure you could find something like this to do to use some of these components on. But yeah, so I was thinking about just putting an LED inside of a box like this, and I actually printed this one with a hollow bottom. It's a lot smaller, but you can tell real quickly. So this is gonna get hot. I don't recommend it, but it works. So we'll get that side plugged into that side of the battery, and then this side plugged in there. And basically that just, it doesn't look like anything really. Even if the light is kind of like that, it's not great. So what I decided to do was take all the parts from Andrew's Boogie Bomb. So the moral of the story is, you can always simplify the design, and you can certainly always make it more complex. So if this is more complicated than you want it to be, then, you know, maybe leave a component out of it. Or, you know, just start with trying to model a cube. Like, try and make this guy, and then try and 3D print it if you have access to a 3D printer. If you don't, we have a video where we kind of show you several ways that we learned to 3D print things without having a 3D printer. But yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna hook this up to here. This is our bus wire, and it is going over here to our this is gonna go over here to our battery backpack. And just like that, I melted the edge of Kevin, but that's okay. Does it smell like I melted the edge of Kevin?
It smells like something wasn't right.
It's because it wasn't, but it's okay.
This is turning into things not to do.
Yeah, this is how not to make stuff. There's a guy named Bob who has I like to make stuff. He's really good at it. This is how not to make stuff. All sloppy and mumbled jumbled. Okay. So we got that. These are going to our speaker. This is going to our ground, so we can go and hook that up. We'll hook him up to our bus. Everybody gets on the bus. Everybody gotta get on the bus. Come on, melt. There we go. Okay. He's on the bus. We got two wires on the bus. Then this one is hooking up to, we also got to hook this up. You know what, that wire gauge I think is probably enough. I don't like how not flexy that is. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off, because I don't like them. There's like this, I didn't realize this was a thing. Andrew actually told us about it with his Boogie Bomb project, even though we didn't listen the first time around and we tried to use the wrong wire. But there is such thing as silicone wire. So this is silicone wire right here. And then this, I don't even know what this is. This is just like another kind of wire, and you can tell like one's much. Can you tell how floppy that is? That's like a stick. So yeah, this stuff is awesome for hooking things up. the coating is flexible, and if the coating's flexible, it won't stress your solder joint. And stressing your solder joint is just not good, because it'll cause the wire to break, and then you're sitting there trying to figure out which wire broke, and it's always really hard to re-solder stuff once you have everything hooked up. So better to just do it right the first time. All right, so we're hooking this up to here to bat again, and it did exactly what I said not to do. Again, how not to make. And this side. Okay, so this one, I want a lithium ion wireless soldering iron. I don't know why, I always happen to tangle the soldering cable, which shortens it up and makes it hard to use, and yeah. Who's watching? How many people are watching? Is it
4.
So if any of y'all, if y'all have any questions, just feel free to drop them below. Happy to answer any questions, elaborate on anything, or just chit chat, whatever. Just making Kevin. Okay. Oh, and then we also, I don't know if you can see, I'm kind of in the way. Try to point. There. There. That guy. He's working on another Kevin. I feel like I want to send a Kevin to somebody. Andrew, do you have any ideas? Somebody we could send one of these Kevins to? Or not? We just keep it.
Will you have this running as soon as the code ready with sounds and everything?
Yep, everything is ready. Code is as bulletproof as I can make it, which is not very bulletproof, but it works. It's actually pretty simple. Well, actually, it's a bunch of nested for loops, because if you notice, whenever you shoot Kevin, or you hit him with the axe, he makes an immediate flash, and then he kind of waits for a second to kind of process what happens, and then he kind of like winds up, and it's like do 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 do, and then shoots a lightning bolt out. So the code to make that happen is just a bunch of different for loops. So that first flash is one for loop with a certain kind of where it's lighting up at a certain speed and a certain brightness, and then the next for loop. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'll definitely, I'll mail this to you so you can throw it in there. That's super cool. Are you done with the axe? How's that going? Tell us about it. This is so frustrating. I need to work on something a lot bigger than this. As much as I like doing this kind of stuff, I get really frustrated messing with these tiny wires, and everything wants to move around and jump around. Okay. Did you ever look into how much it's going to cost to ship that axe to Lachlan? Okay, so we got this one. These two are hooking up to our bus also. These two are hooking up to our bus also. So all these wires right here are feeding through this guy. Actually, I lied. The wire from the wire going to the accelerometer, VN, that does not go to our bus. That comes from our 5-volt signal on our microcontroller. Basically the accelerometer is really sensitive to voltage spikes. So if for whatever reason, like say the LED lights come on, well, anytime the LED lights come on, it causes the voltage in the circuit to drop. It's not necessarily a lot, but it's a lot, or it's enough that would cause a difference in reading on the accelerometer. So what we want to do is give it a different voltage source that's not going to be affected by the lights when they cut on. The other thing that we did is in the program, we basically added a filter so that whenever events like that happened, it wouldn't listen. So for example, when the lights cut on, it says don't listen to the accelerometer. The lights are doing something funny right now. You need to look. It looks more like this whenever the cube is actually hit. So just something to keep in mind whenever you're making this stuff. We're also going to have 2 white wires coming up through here, hooking up to our speaker, and our speaker is going to mount right here, just like that. Now, none of this is pretty, but it works. So, all right, what did Andrew say? I successfully modeled the main point of the axe with on shape. It was quite a triumph. Now on to the easier stuff. That's awesome, man. So you were saying that you were not happy about having to use Fusion. You then switched back to Onshape to model it, but then I sent you a text and I think you said that it seems like more of a job for Fusion. So are you going to end up modeling the entire thing in Fusion, or are you just doing it in Onshape? Are you kind of doing it in both? What's the verdict? Or do you even know? Do you even know? Okay, so we on this ground goes to bus. Putting everybody on the bus. How's it coming over there, Miss B?
Just painting some boxes.
Yup, yeah. Okay, so just getting some solder on that wire, and then we're soldering the accelerometer to the bus. Really, like, there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm literally just hooking things up as I bump into them, and the cool thing is, if it seems like that wasn't a good idea or whatnot, then I'll just disconnect it and try it again. I'm gonna glue this guy in place because it is moving all over the place, and when you're trying to solder something and if it's moving around, it doesn't work very well. So that guy's glued temporarily in place. We're gonna be hooking up our ground wire.
Verdict on shape, he said.
Verdict is on shape. Gotcha. Just a lot easier to do what you want it to do, I suppose. I'm starting to get the hang of Fusion, though. And I was talking to my friend. He actually was trying to convince me to get a lulz bot. You'll like that, Andrew. But nobody can afford lulz bots. And he said that he uses Fusion. He really likes it because it's free, for one, which is hard to beat free. But then he uses a 3D mouse. Have you ever used one of those? be curious to know what you think about 3D mice. And I'm not talking about like the ones that squeak. Okay, so that wire, we got that one tinned, or whatever you call it. And it's hooking up to the bus too. Come on, melt. And it doesn't want to melt. Okay, let's try this again. Come on. Okay, I got it. Yay! Okay. Okay. I feel like I say okay a lot. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Said all right. Okay. So we got the. Okay. Stop saying okay. This is hooking up to 5 volts. So we've got 2 5-volt wires going to our Arduino, which is not ideal. I would rather have, you know, a couple of, like 1 wire going to each pin and solve that problem with the bus, but it'll work. It'll work. We can make it work. Just like that, made it work.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we got that hooked up. There I go with the okay again. Now I'm all self-conscious about it. Now I've got to figure out where I'm wiring up these different data pins. So I've got 2 types of data going to and from this microcontroller. I've got data going to the soundboard, and that's basically turning the sound on and off. So that is I don't have that hooked up anymore, but it's going to pin 7, and then over here I have 2 different pins, actually 3 different pins. So I have to look at my code that I wrote, and I see that what pin is that? What pin is that? Which pin did I take good notes, kids? Set pixel color. Maybe it's pin 0. Did I really not use a variable? It's bad. Bad practice. Once again, do as I say, not as I do. Alright, so pin 0 is for our pixels. So we got this wire that is the data pin for our pixels, and it's going to wire up to pin 0 on our microcontroller. So that's that guy right there. I know all this is hard to see. I feel like we need like a macro camera. Can you, Corey, you think you can hook us up with a macro camera for something like this? Okay, pin 0. Alright, got that one hooked up. Now, on to the next pin. The next pin is, alright, so we got pin 0, we've got analog read pin 1. Which one is pin 1? So now I need to pull up the trinket pinout. So trinket pinout diagram. I want to say pin 1 is really So pin 1 is really pin 2, which is really confusing, and it's given me a lot of problems in the past. So the camera we're using right now is like a Logitech 1080p webcam. I feel like it does okay. It's not perfect. Okay, so our what's this thing called? Accelerometer. That is hooking up to pin 2, which is secretly analog pin 1. Pin 2 is analog pin 1. So we got that guy right there. I don't know why it's like that.
Like what?
Why, like, you say, so these pins are multi-purpose. Like, it can be an analog read pin, or it can be a digital input or output pin. So it can be an analog pin or a digital pin. But pin 1 is not pin 1. So there's, like, you know, little solder points on the trinket board itself. And there's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ground, battery, 5 volts, all that kind of stuff. But when you're using it for analog, like even though you're wired up to pin 2, it's called pin 1 when you're using it for the analog function. And I'm guessing it's because it's the first analog pin, but it's definitely caused its fair share of problems for me when I've just like forgotten that I need to call it by its proper name. Okay, so that's hooked up. That looks good. Alright, so now we've got our accelerometer wired up almost fully. We've got our lights wired up. We need our soundboard wired up. Our soundboard is, according to our code, soundboard is SFX pin. Oh, there we go. SFX pin is pin 0. LED pin 1. No, I messed that up. How did I mess that up? Let's put the accelerometer was supposed to be to pin 2. See, I messed it up again. I just said what I was supposed to do. It's analog 1, pin 2.
Oh, the other camera is just
The webcam on the computer.
on the Mac.
Eyesight camera, I guess is what they call it. Okay, so pin 2, here we go. Round 2, let's try it again. Okay, that one's hooked up. And then we need sound effect board. I gotta see what I named this audio file. I'm pretty sure I named it. Okay, so the way this audio board works is really cool. You basically upload all the audio files to it, and you name the audio file based on what pin you want. Okay, so let me back up. In order to get it to play, you gotta send it a signal. And if you say the pin hooked to number 7 is ground, then it goes through and it looks for the file that's saved to the chip on it that is I'm trying to think how to explain that. This file name is associated with file 7. So it doesn't really matter what you put there. You just have to name it the right thing. And I could put it anywhere. I just put it on pin 7. One, because pin 6 didn't work for me, and I thought I was maybe doing something wrong. And pin 7 was easy to access. It was on the right side of the board. Yeah, just it really didn't matter. But I named my file name T07, which is, you know, just what they tell you to do. They tell you to name it T, and then whatever pin you want to hook it to. And then on the Arduino, we're hooking it up to pin 1. double check. Yep. Nope. Nope. Pin 0.
Hi. We're still working.
Yep. Still, we're getting close though. I think. Okay. This. All right. Pin 0. Pin 0. So I had written variables, and that made it a lot easier. It basically, when you assign variables to pin names, it just makes figuring out how to hook things up a lot easier, but it also makes your code a lot more readable. So yeah, I basically said LED pin is going to be pin 0, or sound effects pin is going to be pin 0. LED pin is going to be pin 2. And then I just used that in my code. Okay, so we got that hooked up. What am I missing? We need power to our bus, which that comes from here. That comes from this guy. So we'll go ahead and wire this up. We got that ground hooked up. Kind of move this out of the way. This ground is going to hook to our Arduino, right? Yes, that's right. So we'll go ahead and hook him up. So we got to, basically everything has to share a common ground. So what you can do when you're all said and done is make sure that all of your ground points are connected, and you want basically every single component to be grounded, because that means the electricity has a path to flow through the device and back to the negative side of the battery. Okay, so we got that hooked up, get that hot glue out of the way because it doesn't like mixing with solder. Then speakers, bat is going to go from here into this guy right here, and this is where the spaghetti farm becomes a problem. But since I didn't glue the switch in place, I can pull it back out. Now I'm hooking up the switch to the circuit right after the battery. You could do it right before the like in the ground line at the very end. It doesn't, well, it does matter, but you can get by with either way. Okay, so we're gonna solder this to here, and I've already put some solder on this pin of the battery. I just have to. All right, so we got that, and then we need another wire. This really is coming along quick. How far are we into it?
About an hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 20 minutes. And this one can be pretty short because this is going from the other pin of the battery to our bus. But I'm going to keep it long because it's going to make hooking things up a lot easier, because I can solder this up right here like that. And then that, I'll pull this back up since I hot glued it down in place. That's going to start soldering into our power bus, which then is going to send power to our LEDs, which is this wire right here. It's also going to send power to our trinket. Yeah, I think we're like a couple of solder connections away from seeing if Kevin actually, and then the speaker. Can't forget about the speaker. Well, we could forget about the speaker, it just wouldn't have sound. But that's not cool. We programmed it to have sound. We might as well use it. That's a really ugly solder joint, but it works, so I'm leaving it alone. Alright, let's do this right here. Because we got 1, 2, 3 connections that need to be made. It's always a good idea to keep in mind how many different connections you're going to make on each point and how to split those up. So like these buses, I made 6 connections long because I knew that I was going to be making 6 ground connections on it. Do you have a USB slot included for charging the battery? No, the bottom just comes off of it. I guess I can totally do that for Lachlan's. You can put it on the bottom, but the only problem with that is it may get in the way of the light. Does that make sense? So like if you put the soundboard on the bottom of the cube, it's going to be standing straight up, which may impede the light on one of the sides or block the light on one of the sides. That's the only thing with putting it in the bottom. So right now the cube just separates. So the bottom just pops off of it and you have a little slot where you can plug it in. And then there's a switch in the bottom. Ooh, man, that got hot. Never would have guessed that. Okay, so we got that, this one, and then I think that's about it. Other than the speaker, still. Come on, melt. All right.
Bigger.
I could totally make a bigger one. I mean, I've got tons of filament, or tons of this glow in the dark filament. I could definitely make like a 2x. Yeah. Okay.
You won't.
I bet you won't. You think Lachlan will think it's funny?
Yeah, walrus.
Okay. Now the speaker, alright, we'll pop this up because we don't need this glued down anymore. I glued this down a lot better than I thought I was going to. Alright, so that we'll just kind of move off to the side. This guy, I'm going to just put a little dab of glue on it. It doesn't need much.
A little dab will do ya.
Is that right?
That's what they say. Don't you? Amen.
Yeah? Ah! Okay, so the switch is now glued in place. Let's make sure it still works. Actually, let's wait for that glue to solidify. Alright, so we got that. And then this guy is going to glue right here. We can go ahead and hook up our battery. Is Bowling going to paint the hieroglyphics on the sides? So what I was thinking for the hieroglyphics is to model, let's see if I can get this in frame. Okay, so remodel this box right here and model the hieroglyphics into the sides of it as like recesses. So you would draw a shape on the side and then basically do an extruded cut into the box so it's thinner right there. The problem is my 3D printer right now would never be able to print that. Andrew, do you think the Prusa will be able to do that? If I model like the hieroglyphics either on the inside of the box or the outside of the box, it would be able to give you that kind of definition so that, you know, maybe on the inside of the box you just paint them black or dark purple. I guess you could. But yeah, I totally think the hieroglyphics should be on it. I think that would be really cool. Let's see. Is there light? Is there light? Let's turn this off. Okay. 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 Piece of cake for me. Okay, so once we get this printer and get it all put together, you think that it'll be able to take care of it? We might get you to consult us on what settings we should use, because I was looking at the Prusa printer settings and there were quite a bit to choose from. Please be light, please be light, please be light. Okay, these are not lighting up for some reason, and that is probably because I wired something up wrong. We've got, oh shoot, I did wire something up wrong.
Found it.
Found it. Man, it never, ever goes this smoothly. You know what? I might have just jinxed us. Because I might have just done something really bad. But we'll figure it out. Alright. Check it out, Andrew. That soldering kit that I got like yours came with these.
Again, just like you.
Alright, so what I did is I accidentally wired the power to the data pin as opposed to the data pin to the data pin. It's really, really bad. Don't do that. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I highly doubt it hurt anything, but just don't do that.
Don't be messing with wire.
Don't wire things up wrong. Because you never figure it out that quickly. Alright, so we got that back. Let's hook data back up. Alright, data is wired. Power. Alright, now let's try it again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. There should be light unless I blew the LEDs.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. Whew. So now the only thing that I have left to do is feed these wires through Kevin's hat, because we're going to call this the hat of Kevin. I wonder if Fortnite developers think about how they would actually make this stuff if they were to make it in real life. Or if that's what our job is. Okay, got that. Man, those are a little short. Let's lengthen those up. Lengthen them up. Make them longer. Okay, got that off. And that doesn't have any white, so I have, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll use yellow.
Yeah.
Yellow wires for our speaker. Because yellow, yell. Yeah, they hire other people to solve these problems. Like you, when they hired you to make a bunch of boogie bombs. Okay, so this guy right here. And these are basically just the output pins on the amplifier. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. It doesn't matter which way you hook up the speaker. Speaker has two wires going to it, and basically it allows electricity to go in and out of the coil of wire. A speaker is basically just a coil of wire and a magnet, and whenever you send electricity through a coil of wire, it generates a magnetic field. And if you've ever played with two magnets, you realize that you turn them one way, they want to attract each other. You turn them the other way, they want to repel each other. And so with the electromagnet, you can basically make it, so the coil of wire, you can make it push and pull the magnet back and forth, which moves this diaphragm or this piece of plastic back and forth, which creates pressure waves in the air, which vibrate your eardrums, which, you know, make sound. So it doesn't, all that to say, it doesn't matter which way you hook these up. Make sense? Cool. All right, Kevin. You are so close, my friend. You are like 2 solder joints away from coming to life if everything went as planned. Okay, so these wires are feeding up through Kevin's hat, which is this guy right here. So 1 wire through Kevin's hat. Second wire through Kevin's hat. Hindsight, that could have been a little bit bigger, but that's okay. We're gonna strip the excess wire off of these guys right here, excess wire off of that guy, and then all we have to do now is solder these in place. Can you see that? Am I in frame? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, put a little bit more solder on there just so things don't go anywhere like that. And then hook this one up. What are the chances that this works first time?
Feeling good.
You're feeling good?
Because I mean, the lights took a little bit of extra, but feeling good.
Okay. Hey, look, it's Kevin. Or actually, this is Kevin's guts.
It's brain.
We have success. Well, I don't know about successfully. We'll wait until we press the button. All right, turning Kevin's on. Kevin's on. We got lights. And then if we hit it, oh yeah. Kevin might be a little sensitive. He doesn't like people getting near him. All right, so we're gonna glue the battery in place like we had it before, just like so. So it doesn't move because it's probably not the end of the world if it moves. But, you know, just want to hold everything in place if we can. All right, so got that. That glued down, and then we got this little bus. And the other reason we want to glue like stuff like the bus down is because if it comes in contact with something, the speaker goes on the hat right here. So just like that. Can you see that? There's like a little cutout in this center post that all this mounts to. Okay. So, I'm so excited right now. This is like, I mean, I did a lot of homework to like make this as successful as possible the first time, but it feels really good when one of your maker projects kind of works out. All right, so we got all that. Will you get like some...
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to turn this into a YouTube video, but better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so we got this. We're going to glue the speaker down too. We don't want to put too much glue on it because it moving around kind of gives it this like like a I don't even know, like it vibrating makes a noise that's kind of cool. It's the easiest way I know to describe it. So put just a little dab of glue in there, and then mount our speaker just like that, and then we're going to push this down. We're going to push all the wires to the inside. We got some wires interfering. And then we can put a little dab of glue right there. A little dab of glue right there. Kind of glue these wires in a little bit. You think so? Like, make a little, like, would you make a quick demo video and, like, edit it? Or is it just kind of showing Kevin doing what Kevin's doing? What makes the most sense for Reddit? Okay, so then the cube top just goes on it like that. Yes! And then we got Kevin. So, should be able to turn him on. Let me get him in frame. Turn off that light, if you don't mind. Alright, so Kevin, he's lit just a little bit right now because he's just hanging out. But then, if I have the sensitivity right, there he goes. And it's kind of, I don't know if you can hear it that well. Maybe I'll put some holes in it to make it a little louder. Can you hear that? Oh, you know what? I might have turned the volume down. So it sounds a lot louder like that. Cool. And just like that, you've made your very own Kevin. And then you can take your Nerf gun, shoot Kevin. Where is he? Let's see if I can. Sorry, Kev. Sorry, Kev. But yeah. Anyway, that's how you make Kevin from Fortnite. You basically just, you know, like I said, it all started out with the Boogie Bomb. If you haven't seen Andrew's Boogie Bomb project, he's the ray gun project here in the stream. Totally go check it out. But you know, that project, I was following a guide, and I got hot glue on my arm.
Stuff stayed for a while.
So I'm following a guide, and the guide makes it really simple. You know, Andrew's videos make it really simple to make the Boogie Bomb. This guy right here. It's super cool. Same type thing. You turn it on. This one, don't tell anybody about it. It actually is like a little bit different. But the way that it works is you pull the pin and it goes off. This one I've got wired differently, so it's a bad example. Don't worry about that. But yeah, pull the pin and it should go off in 3 seconds. Unless I did something wrong. But yeah, so like I said, I started with the guide, with something very simple, and just pushed myself out of my comfort zone just a little bit. And then, as you do that and you build one project, you get the confidence to try other stuff. And that's how Kevin happens. So cool. One modification as I can make is the button is kind of hard to get to, but that's okay. But yeah, you kind of get ideas for ways that you can make things better. So yeah, if you learned anything, just start simple, try something, and then try and make it better. So yeah, that's all I got today. Feel free to drop a comment in this video. We don't know if we're gonna leave it up or take it down, and if you liked it, let us know. But that's it for now, and yeah, y'all have a great day.
See you later.
Now you can make something.
Bye.
See ya.